Lilly. She should be up there. Once upon a time, upon a Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle.
It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew.
Bah, humbug.
Christmas, bah, humbug, Uncle. You don't mean that, I am sure.
I do. Out with Merry Christmas. If I had my way, every fool who goes around with Merry Christmas on his lips would be boiled in his own pudding. Really.
Uncle?
Nephew, you do Christmas your way, I'll do Christmas my way.
But Christmas isn't a time about pleasing ourselves.
Then I don't want any part of it. Much good it will do you, much good it has ever done you.
But I have always thought of Christmas as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. And though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, then I say Christmas has done me good and it will do me good. So God bless Christmas.
I will see you later.
I'll keep my Christmas spirit to the last. A Merry Christmas, Uncle.
I will see you later.
And a Happy New Year.
I will see you later.
His nephew left the room without an angry word, but the clerk, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, had let someone else in.
Good afternoon, sir. In this festive season, one should have a spirit to raise money for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly in this present time. Some of us are trying to start a fund to buy food and drink for the poor and clothes to keep them warm. How much money would you like to give, sir?
Nothing.
Oh, you mean you would like to donate, but you wish to remain anonymous?
I wish to be left alone, if you ask me, dear sir. That is what I desire. I do not make merry at Christmas, nor do I make others merry who sit idly about. I pay my taxes for the services for the poor, and that is certainly enough. And those who are badly off should simply work harder.
But sir, many do work hard, but still they cannot provide for their family.
That is not my problem.
The hour to close the counting house had arrived. Later that evening, Scrooge arrived at his house. As he closed the door, it shut with a bang. The sound resounded through the house like thunder. Every room above and every barrel in the wine merchant's cellars below appeared to have a separate peal of echoes of its own. Now, Scrooge was not a man to be frightened by echoes. He fastened the door and walked across the hall and up the stairs. Up Scrooge went, not caring at all that it was very dark. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge liked it. Quite satisfied, he closed his door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Safe from any surprise, he put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap and sat down before the very low fire to eat his watery oatmeal.
Do you love my bathrobe? Oh, what a day it's been.
As he lay his head back against the chair, he began to hear a clanking noise deep down below, as if some person were dragging a heavy chain over the casks in the wine merchant's cellar. Then he heard the noise much louder on the floors below. Then coming up the stairs. Then coming straight towards his door. It came right through the heavy door, and a ghost passed into the room before his eyes. And upon its coming in, the dying flame leaped up as though it cried,
I know him, Marley's ghost.
What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then?
Well, in life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
The ghost remained seated on the opposite side of the fireplace, as if he were quite used to it.
You don't believe in me?
Of course not. The Jacob Marley I knew died 7 years ago on this very eve.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Well, who knows what I'm actually seeing? You may be a figment of my imagination. You may be a bit of undigested beef. You may be a blot of mustard or a crumb of cheese. You may be an undercooked potato. There's more gravy than grave to you, whatever you are.
The spirit raised a frightful cry.
Mercy, mercy me, apparition. Why have you come here to mess with me? Why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they come here?
Well, it was required by every person that in their life they must walk among their brothers and sisters and travel throughout the world. If they fail to go out into the world while they are alive, they are confined to life after death. Since I never walked out of our counting house while I was alive, so I am confined to grief.
Scrooge was very much dismayed to hear the ghost talking about such things, and he began to shake.
I'm here to warn you that you yet have a chance of escaping my fate. You will be haunted by 3 spirits. Expect the first tomorrow when the bell tolls 1. Expect the second the next night at the same time. And the third on the next night after the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more.
Scrooge tried to say bah humbug, but stopped at the first syllable. And given the emotion he'd undergone, or the fatigue of the day, or his glimpse of the invisible world, or his conversation with the ghost, or maybe just because it was so late, he went straight to bed without undressing and fell asleep at that very instant. When Scrooge awoke, the church clock tolled a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy bong. Light flashed up in the room upon the instant, and the curtains of his bed were drawn aside by a strange figure, like a child.
Are you the spirit whose coming was predicted to me?
I am.
Well, who or what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood in the busy thoroughfares of a city. It was made plain by the decorations of the shops that here, too, it was Christmas time. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door.
Do you recognize this place?
Recognize it? Of course I do. This is where I served many years ago as an apprentice.
They went in and saw an old gentleman in a Welsh wig sitting behind a desk. Scrooge cried in great excitement.
Why, it's old Fezziwig. He's still alive, bless his heart. Oh my goodness.
Yo-ho there! Richard, Ebenezer!
A living and moving picture of Scrooge's former self, a young man came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentice.
Yo-ho there, my boys, no more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Richard, Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have these shutters up before a man can say lickety-split. Clear away, my lads, let's have lots of room here. Ah, there's my lovely wife and children. Merry Christmas, my loves. We need more children if this is going to be a true Christmas celebration.
Merry Christmas. May we have all the young children come down. Let's do this for you. Come down, young children.
Goodness. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, I never.
small matter could fill their hearts so full of gratitude. He only spent but a few dollars on that party. Is this enough for your praise?
Oh, spirits, that is not the point. The point is old Fezziwig has the power to make us happy or unhappy. He has the power to make it a happy work environment or not. You could see with his friendly manner and kind words and actions, he has brought happiness to others beyond words, beyond imagination. It's just as good as if he had spent a great fortune on this party. Spirit, haunt me no longer. Take me away from this place.
As he struggled with the spirit, he was conscious of being exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness, and further, of being in his own bedroom. He had barely time to go to bed before he sank into a deep and heavy sleep. Bedroom, which had been transformed into a lively, generous, happy Christmas environment. There were leaves of holly and mistletoe, along with a warm fire in the fireplace. Piled upon the table were turkeys and hams, chestnuts, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, a bowl of punch, and huge cakes. Over on the couch sat a friendly figure carrying a glowing torch.
Come in, and see me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present. You have never seen the likes of me before.
No, I've not.
Touch my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast. The room and everything in it disappeared instantly, and they stood in the city streets upon a snowy Christmas morning. Scrooge and the ghost passed on, invisible, straight to Scrooge's clerk's house. And on the threshold of the door, the spirits smiled and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling with the sprinklings of his torch. Then up rose Mrs. Cratchit.
Whatever's keeping your precious father and your brother Tiny Tim? No.
Run the mic up to her.
No. There's father coming.
In came Bob Cratchit, their father, in his threadbare clothes, darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim at his side. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron cast.
And how is Tiny Tim behaving today?
As good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful. He thinks the strangest things. Tiny Tim told me on the way home that he wished all the people in the church who saw him as physically disabled would do well to remember that on Christmas Day, it was Jesus who made lame beggars walk and blind people see.
Master Peter and the two young Cratchits went to fetch the goose. Mrs. Cratchit had already made the hot gravy, ready beforehand in a little saucepan. Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigor. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him. They sat in a corner at the table. The two young Cratchits sat places for everybody. To begin their meal, they said grace. As Mrs. Cratchit cut the turkey and passed it around to everyone, a murmur of delight arose around the table. Even Tiny Tim, energized by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of his knife and feebly cried, After they ate, Mrs. Cratchit left the room to go get the pudding dessert. She came back smiling proudly with the pudding, decorated with mounds of whipped cream and Christmas holly.
Oh, what wonderful pudding.
At last, the dinner was all done. The cloth was cleared, the hearth swept, and the fire made up. Then all the Cratchits drew around the hearth, the whole family, with the chestnuts on the fire roasting and crackling noisily. They were happy and grateful, pleased with one another and contented with the time. And when they faded, they looked happier yet in the light of the Spirit's torch. As he left, Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the very last. Just like the Cratchits, many families in Philadelphia struggle to make ends meet, not just at Christmas, but all year long. This evening, there are two ways you can help. First, between now and MLK Day, you can help decorate our mitten tree with gloves and mittens for children who have none during this cold season. All items on our tree will be donated to Cradles to Crayons, a local organization that provides children from birth through age 12 living in homeless or low-income situations with the essential items they need to thrive. They supply these items free of charge by engaging and connecting communities that have with the communities that need. The other thing you can do during our services tonight and tomorrow, we will be sharing our plate with the Philadelphia Interfaith Hospitality Network. PIN provides emergency shelter, career development, financial literacy training, and other supportive services to families in need. Several local businesses, churches, and organizations in the community with more than 1,500 volunteers support PIN in its efforts to end homelessness and poverty in our community. In fact, in its 25-year history, PIN has helped more than 325 families transition from homelessness to self-sufficiency. Families receive safe, child-friendly housing for a period of 2 weeks to 2 months at participating synagogues, mosques, and churches just like USG. At a time when many Philadelphians are unable to find steady employment at a living wage or affordable housing, PIN provides compassionate and comprehensive services to help them transform their lives. We invite you to give generously. Checks can be made payable to USG with USG and PIN in the memo line. Thank you. After visiting many happy homes with the ghost of Christmas present, Scrooge suddenly found himself alone, and the bell struck 12. As the last stroke of the bell ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground toward him.
Ghost of the future, you're the ghost that I fear the most. Please, don't just stand there. Speak to me.
It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them.
Listen, I know you're trying to help me, but time is precious tonight and the clock is ticking, so lead on. If we have to go somewhere, lead on, Spirit.
They barely seemed to enter the city, for the city appeared to spring up about them. But there they were in the heart of it, amongst the merchants. The Spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen. Observing that the hand was pointed to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to them talk.
I haven't heard. Either way, I only know he's dead. That's all I know. When did he die? What did he do with his money?
I haven't heard. Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me. That's all I know.
The scene had changed, and now he almost touched a bare, uncurtained bed. A pale light, rising in the outer air, fell straight upon this bed, and on it, unwatched and uncared for, was the body of this unknown man.
Spirit, please show me some tenderness connected to this death, or I will remain haunted by this dark chamber.
The ghost brought him to poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found the mother and her children seated around the fire. It was quiet. It was very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. Mrs. Cratchit was engaged in needlework, and even she was very quiet. The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face.
The color hurts my eyes. Working in the dark with only candlelight makes them weak. But I certainly won't tell your father that I have weak eyes when he returns. He should be home any moment now.
I think he's late. I also think he's been walking a lot slower the past few evenings.
I have known your father to walk very fast with Tiny Tim on his shoulders, indeed. But he was very light, and your father loved him so. He was no worry. He was no trouble at all. There's your father now.
She hurried out to meet him, and Bob came in. His tea was ready for him. They almost tripped over each other trying to give Father his tea. Then the two young Cratchits climbed up on his lap and lay, each child, a little cheek up against his face, as if to say, "Don't worry, Father. Don't be sad." Even though Bob had just visited the grave of their young boy, Tiny Tim, he was still able to be cheerful with them and spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table and praised Mrs. Cratchit and the girls.
Did you visit his grave today, Bob?
Yes, my dear. You should have gone. It would have done you good to have seen how green a place it is. I promised that I would walk there on a Sunday. My little child, my little child.
Spirit, I know not how, but I think our time is drawing near. I think it's almost time to say goodbye. But before you and I say goodbye, Spirit, you have to answer me the question of who was the man that we saw there lying dead? Who was the dead man, Spirit? What?
The ghost of Christmas future brought him to a dismal, wretched, ruinous churchyard. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one in particular. Scrooge crept toward it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Spirit, am I the dead man that we saw earlier? Spirit, no. I am not the man I used to be. I'm not going to be mean anymore, Spirit. Why show me all of this if I'm beyond hope? Please tell me I have a chance to change this future if I change my life. I will have Christmas in my heart, and I will have Christmas in my heart every day. Spirit, please give me a chance to change.
Holding up his hands in one last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the ghost's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own.
What?
Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own to make changes in. Running to the window, he opened it and stuck out his head. No fog, no mist, no night. Just a clear, bright, stirring, golden day.
Oh, excuse me, young lady. What day is it today?
Cried Scrooge, calling downward to a girl in her Sunday clothes.
Me?
Yes. Oh, a very bright young lady. Yes. What day is it today?
Today? Why, Christmas Day.
Oh, it's Christmas today? I haven't missed it? Oh, what a delightful girl. I'm so happy. Oh, young girl, do you know the store a block away on the corner?
Sure I do.
Oh, so smart. It's so delightful to talk to you this morning. Do you happen to know if they still have the prize turkey hanging in the window, the large turkey, not the small one?
The one as big as me?
Yes, young lady. Would you do me the favor to please go to the store and purchase that turkey?
What?
No, I'm not kidding. I know it's hard to believe, but I'm asking you, would you please go to the store, get the man from the store and ask him to come here. I'll give him the address to which I would like the turkey to be delivered. If you do it, I will give you $1. If you do it within 5 minutes, I will give you $20.
The girl was off like a shot.
Oh, this is so wonderful. This is so delightful. I'll send that turkey to the Cratchit house. They'll love it, and they'll never know who sent it. That turkey is huge. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
Scrooge then dressed himself in all his best. And at last made his way out into the streets. The people were by this time pouring forth, as he'd seen them with the ghost of Christmas present. And walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regarded everyone with a delightful smile. He looked so irresistibly pleasant that, in a word, 3 good-humored fellows said,
Good morning, sir. Merry Christmas to you.
Oh, good morning, young lads. Merry Christmas to you.
He was at the office early the next morning. If he could only get there first, maybe he could catch Bob Cratchit coming in late. The clock struck 9, no Bob. 1/4 no Bob. Bob was a full 18 minutes late. Bob's hat was off before he opened the door. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen.
Why, weren't you supposed to be here at 9 a.m. this morning?
Yes, I'm very sorry, sir. I am late.
You're late. Yes, you are late. Please come here, good chap. Now listen, you know how I run an office. We don't put up with any tardiness here. So I am going to have to raise your salary.
Bob trembled.
Yes, oh Bob, good man, Bob. Merry Christmas, the merriest of Christmas to you. Listen, I am going to raise your salary today. And Bob, I promise from the bottom of my heart that I will be a good coworker and help you and your struggling family. Merry Christmas.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and then some. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend and as good a man as the good old city knew. Some people laughed to see the change in him, but his own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. And it was always said of him that he knew how to do Christmas right. May that be truly said of all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, everyone.
the end.
Please join us as we sing We Wish You a